Let's take a look at some things that we found in the previous pages and putting them into rules. What happens to the graph of y equals x squared when a number is added to y equals x squared? I have three equations here: y equals x squared plus 1, y equals x squared plus 4, and y equals x squared plus a half. I'm going to graph these three along with y equals x squared on Desmos. I already have y equals x squared entered. Let's first look at y equals x squared plus 1. My graph is shifted up 1. Let's now look at y equals x squared plus 4. My graph is shifted up 4. And let's look at y equals x squared plus 1/2. My graph is shifted up 1/2. So that's my 1. My 1/2 is in between there. So when a number is added to x squared, my rule is the graph is shifted up. I would like you to take a look at the next row. So again, open up Desmos, begin with y equals x squared, and then sketch the graph of the three following ones and see if you can come up with the rule. As you may have guessed and found after you typed these into Desmos, when a number is subtracted from x squared, our graph is shifted down. What happens to the graph of y equals x squared when it is multiplied by -1? Let's take a look at Desmos. So then I have y equals negative x squared. My graph is a reflection over the x-axis. That one's not very pretty. Let me see if I can redo that. Better. So when y equals x squared is multiplied by -1, my rule is the graph is reflected over the x-axis. Let's switch gears a little bit here. What happens to the graph of y equals x squared when x squared is multiplied by a number greater than 1? So we're going to multiply by 2, by 4, by 10. Let's go to Desmos and see what we find. Y equals 2x squared. My green graph compared to my red one. Let's see what happens when we look at the graph of y equals 4x squared. Again, getting narrower. What do you think is going to happen for the graph of y equals 10x squared? If I can type it correctly. There we go, super narrow. So when it is multiplied by a number greater than 1, our graph is narrower. Let's turn the page. What happens to the graph of y equals x squared when x squared is multiplied by a fraction? Okay, we're going to look at fractions between 0 and 1. 3/4, 1/2, 1/4. Take a moment, hit pause, graph these on Desmos, and see if you can develop the rule. You may have found when we multiply the graph of y equals x squared, when we multiply x squared by a fraction between 0 and 1, our graph becomes wider. What I would like you to do right now is hit pause, open up Canvas, and I would like you to take concept check quiz number 1. When you are done, then return to the video. So up to this point, you should have been able to easily graph or sketch y equals x squared. Y equals x squared is a parabola that opens up and goes through the point 0, 0. Using that as a reference, we are going to be able to graph y equals negative 2x squared plus 1 without using any tools. No Desmos, no calculator. We're going to use the tool of our mind. So identify the x squared in the new equation. So my x squared is right there. So let's answer these questions. Is there a negative sign in front of the x squared? The answer to that is yes, I have a negative in front of there. If so, what does that mean? As we learned on the previous page, when it is multiplied by a negative 1 or a negative number, our graph is reflected over the x-axis. Is there a number greater than 1 in front of the x? Is 2 greater than 1? The answer to that is yes. So what does that mean? Well, what did we find out above? Or on the previous page. If we multiply by a number greater than 1, that means our graph is going to be narrower. Step 5 asks, is there a fraction in front of the x squared? Negative 2 is not a fraction, so my answer to that is no. Is there a number added to the x squared? And the answer to that is yes, it's added 1. So yes. What does that mean? If I'm adding, then that means my graph is going to be shifted up. Because I'm adding 1, we are going to shift up 1. Is there a number subtracted from the x squared? Our answer to that is no. So let's take all of this into account and let's sketch the graph. So I know it is reflected over the x-axis. So what that means is my graph is going to open down. It is narrower than my parent function of y equals x squared. And then it is shifted up 1. So there's my shifted up 1. it needs to be narrower than y equals x squared, and it needs to be opening down. So my graph should look something like that. It is reflected over the x-axis, it is narrower, and it is shifted up 1. What I would like you to do here is answer these same questions up above that we did for y equals 1/2 x squared minus 3, and then you will sketch that graph on this axis. So select pause, answer the questions, and sketch your graph. How did you do? Because there is no negative out in front, there is no reflection. Because we are subtracting 3, we are going to shift down 3. Because we are multiplying by a fraction between 0 and 1, my graph is wider. So I put my 3 tick marks down to show it goes through -3. It opens up, and it is wider than y equals x squared. At the conclusion of this video, you will now take concept check quiz number 2 found on Canvas. Good luck!